Hi there. I'm so happy to have you all here, and I'm super excited to welcome my friend Debra Atkinson, who is an amazing flipping 50 fitness coach. And I'm so excited to share what she has to share because after menopause, so many people struggle, and even with perimenopause, so many women struggle with what kind of exercise they should do and how they should do it. And like for myself, actually, I have a habit of injuring myself because I'm always trying to be younger and exercise like I used to. And the fact is that you really can't exercise like you used to. And so I'm so excited to have you share your information, Debra.
Thank
Um,
you.
do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself before I get started?
Absolutely. So, this is my 37th year in the fitness industry. So, I'm right there in the boat rowing with everybody else. And unfortunately, as much as I would like to be immune to the effects of hormones, I am not. So, sometimes I also have to pivot and figure it out. And that becomes a part of what I share with my community. So we keep it pretty real. And, I worked with all populations, like so many trainers. I could work with anybody, but I wanted to leave and have a bigger reach when I was about 49. I think my son went off to college and I had that midlife moment where he's going to have a life. I better get one of my own. And
Mhm.
we'd had some success, back in the 2006 and 8 downturn. And I wanted to share our methods with trainers. And I realized if I'm going to coach trainers on growing their business and being in more integrity, we needed to save the good ones really in the fitness industry and get rid of the marketers.
Mhm.
And I realized if I'm going to be effective, I need to still be doing it or I'll be irrelevant really well. So I knew I had to pick. And I had always worked with midlife women, and I kept hearing from our baby boomers, they don't get me. Even my doctor said, well, welcome to menopause. What do you expect?
Mhm.
As if this is it, you know,
Mhm.
get used to
Yeah.
your new life and settle. And most baby boomer women were not willing to, thank goodness. And so it made me look at things a whole different way. And as I was trying to build that online business, honestly, I got very lucky. I stumbled into because I was panicked after I left safety and security at 49 and literally started over. I was not allowing myself very much time at all to exercise. So 20 minutes compared to hours a day for the past decades. And about a year later, I was in the best shape of my life. I mean, I looked younger, I was healthier, stronger. And I said, okay, this is totally flies against everything I learned and
Mhm.
everything I taught as a lecturer in kinesiology. So I dug into the research and realized how little is out there featuring
Mhm.
women. And then when we think about the 7, sometimes more, sometimes less, hormonal phases that women go through in their lives, every one of those demands a different exercise prescription. So 39% of all research caters to women. If we divide that by 7, that means less than 10%, quite a bit less than 10%, really features you in any stage of life you're in. And that's where I really dug in. And I didn't just now think, oh, I'm working with, I got mad. I mean, this is really a mission. And
Mhm.
we've got to get a better message out there and start teaching it in the universities and in certifications. And then I want to be a forefront in leading. This is how we do it. So,
Mhm. So there's a couple things that I find remarkable about some of the things that you teach, and one of them is that more cardio is not the way to lose weight. You want to talk about that a little bit?
yeah, in fact, more cardio may actually lead to weight gain or weight loss resistance at the very least. And unfortunately, so as I said, I'm not immune to it. So I can give you a perfect example. I'm the epitome of more must be better. And I love endurance exercise. It does not love me since I'm
Mhm.
in menopause. And in 2019, that was really my turning point for hit menopause during that year. And I was training for an Ironman. I had declared this is going to be my fittest year, and I was blogging about it. And so there I was blogging, telling everybody I had gained at least 10 pounds of cortisol weight. It just did not work. All of the things were stacked against me. And here's why, right? So women are so much more susceptible, and I'm preaching to the choir as I'm talking to you, of course, to the negative effects of stress. So as that sharp turn down of estrogen starts, cortisol tends to go up. And then it means that all stressors from all your sources, whether it's emotional or financial, or you're not sleeping, or you're exercising too much. So that sweet spot of exercise is great, but your sweet spot at 30 is no longer your sweet spot when you're right in that hot spot of menopause. So you've got to adapt. And dieting is also a stressor. So if you're logging, those calories and trying to eat less and exercise more, that is like stress on top of stress, and we're in trouble. And that, what happens when your body's stressed, it shuts down and it stores fat. And we can't do two opposite things. It can't both burn fat and store fat. So it's going to choose, I got to protect you. I think there's a threat here, and it's trying to do what evolution taught it to, but it's not working the way we want it to. So when you said, you don't want to do all that exercise, it's true. And for some of our listeners, probably that's a relief. Like, you actually don't have to. You can stop feeling guilty that you don't feel like it, and stop feeling guilty you don't have time to do it, because it actually may be that less exercise is the secret, particularly when it comes to cardio.
And what happened in the pandemic that combined to create a bigger health risk for women since the pandemic started?
Yes. Well, and ladies, your men are not immune either. So, but it was especially threatening, I think, to women, because first of all, for women who are in menopause, and really just in that late stage perimenopause, right before it's been 12 months since you've had that last period. So some of you are probably flirting with that right now. You're sporadically having them, they're not predictable anymore, and you're in that late stage perimenopause or early stage postmenopause, just within the year or two after you hit it. We are really vulnerable to accelerated losses of muscle and of bone. And it's the muscle that we see. So it's when a woman will suddenly say, I'm doing all the things and I have no muscle tone. What is going on here? And what I used to do doesn't work anymore. What's happening? So there's that going on in menopause. But here's the studies. There are two big ones, and there's probably going to be another one tomorrow, because we're now getting the feedback for what happened. But JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, published early in the spring that the average weight gain, and this is tracked based on smart scale users, and that means you have a scale that's telling you body composition, and the average weight gain was 1.5 pounds per month. So by, for instance, May of 2020, because let's hope most of us are opening back up, that's 20 pounds on average. That means some people gained more, some maybe not so much. So then very recently, the American Psychological Association published a study that looked at a broader audience. The average age of that first study, by the way, was 51. That is exactly the age menopause hits. So that's a little bit of a threat. The broader study by APA was both men and women, and it was 18-year-olds to 65-year-olds. So we've got to factor in it wasn't exactly like you. And they found that the average weight gain was anywhere between 15 and 29 pounds. So again, I mean, the news is not good. That, you and I have to guess that's probably not muscle, right? So at the beginning of the pandemic, we all had a dumbbell shortage. Even if we wanted to find a solution to lift weights at home, we couldn't get our hands on them. You had to get very creative and fill your water bottles with rocks, or put books in your backpack and lift that up and down. And some people did. But what did happen, even for the people who had an abrupt uptick of exercise, and some people did as much as 40% more exercise. But unfortunately, what they were doing was walking. And nothing wrong with walking, lots of great health benefits, but it's not enough. So if you only poured all your energy into walking, you've got to be careful. And we need to get that bone density and that muscle building exercise back in. And I think we may see some devastating numbers in 8 or 10 years if we don't do something to negate the changes that have happened in the last 14 months.
And your solution is working with strength training, correct? Is to help people with strength training and not too much strength training, right? Like not 5 times a week where you're lifting 500 pounds or
well, yeah, not 5 times a week. And that's such a great question, because a lot of women will say to me, if strength training is the golden ticket to gain or at least hold on to the lean muscle mass, why don't we do it more often? Someone in my community just asked me that, and it is a logical question. It's certainly where you would think. But what you have to remember is that when we're exercising of any kind, and definitely strength training, what we're doing is breaking down muscle. So there are micro tears that occur in the muscle. The fitness actually happens in the time between one workout and the next, provided you have ample rest. So that means sleep, as well as just time between the workouts. Monday and Thursday is a better schedule than Monday and Wednesday and Friday was for you. So older adults tend to need a little bit more recovery. And it's not that you are delicate, because I don't want any woman to think you can't lift heavy relative to you. And don't compare your weight or ask me what weight, because it's all about you. But you need more recovery than you ever did in order to have those high quality workouts. So it's important that we have the rest between, as much as it's important that we have a really high quality workout while we're doing it. And I recently shared, should you do a split routine, meaning upper body one day and lower body another, or getting really bodybuilder like chest and triceps one day and back and biceps another day? And the results, we have to extrapolate a little bit, because there's been very few studies, if any. I couldn't find anything studying the difference between those and those on women in menopause. So we have to remember, we have different hormones and metabolism and body composition than anybody else. So we can't compare our results to a man or a mouse. But what there was out there is that men, even young men, and so I think we can take a little bit of this and take what we know about women to be true, that men got up to 8 times better results doing a total body strength training routine than they did doing split routine. So that means work everything and just do it a couple times a week. And it's so much easier to stay on schedule, and you shrink your exercise time dramatically when you do it that way.
So, so you do weights twice a week for strength training. What about other exercise like walking and yoga? Is that also considered too much, or is it recommended? Because, there's a lot of, I saw something that said you should walk 10,000 steps a day, right? And they say that all the time. Is that, if you walk 10,000 steps a day, is that also too much for?
That's a great question. And that is a question that I think every listener has to answer for themselves. And, I do think it is more like there's movement and then there's exercise. So exercise being, it's an intentional effort to either lift something heavier than I normally do in my daily life, or it's getting breathless so that I'm actually working my heart a little bit more, again, overloading it. But then movement is compensating for what you and I are doing right now. We're all sitting so much. And so compensating for that, I think, one of our good mutual friends says, walking is not exercise. Walking is just movement. We all need to walk. And so it's finding 10 minutes here and there. It's getting a dog if you don't have one. They're a really great excuse. My dog is 13 and a half years. Trust me, I get to walk, but we're not breaking any records. I mean, he can't wait to get back inside, number one, but we don't go very far. And that's okay. The point is you're getting up and you're moving. There's movement in your day. So I think yoga and walking, and the amount that you walk should be really based on what feedback and data is your body giving you. So for somebody who might be flirting with fatigue or recovering from COVID, even, chronic fatigue or adrenal fatigue, if you're pushing yourself to the point where you finish whatever you're doing for exercise or movement and you could take a nap, it's too much. The level, the volume that you're doing is too much. We have to remember that exercise is supposed to make us better at life. We don't have the intention of getting better at the exercise and then couch compensating and like, I'm too tired, I'm not going to do that. I worked out today, I'm tired. You shouldn't have that. You should have I feel so much better on the days I exercise. I have so much more energy. That's where we want you to be, in that sweet spot.
Great. Is there anything else you want to share? I think you have a program coming up that I would love you to talk about.
I do. And I would love to share one more thing about, you mentioned twice a week strength training. So you nailed that on the head. And I want to say why that is. So literally the research that I use behind every workout that I design, behind every program and protocol, is really featuring women in menopause. So I'm not going to 25-year-old elite athlete males and asking, okay, what did they do? What was successful? And we're going to do that. And it's not based on my mood in the morning either. But postmenopausal women were studied, and they had them do different groups, do 1 time a week, twice a week, or 3 times a week of exercise. And they looked at, where were the advantages as far as the changes in body composition, of course, and their fitness level, but also looking at total energy expenditure was one of the measures. And they found that, we can all probably guess, the 1 time a week didn't cut it. It's between the 2 and 3. But they found that the 3 time a week exercisers did what I discussed earlier, couch compensated. They worked out and then they were kind of tired. That was it. Like they exercised or moved less. So they weren't counting steps, but they were counting their energy expenditure, like by Fitbits, for instance. And they found that those that exercised twice a week with strength training had the most energy. They had more energy, they had more strength, and they had the desire to do things like, maybe not all of us want to clean the house, but if it needs to be done and you're just like, I don't have any motivation, I can't do that. You can, right? When you're exercising in your sweet spot, that Goldilocks. So it's just enough so that you get the benefits, but your total energy expenditure that really counts toward optimal weight and optimal weight management is what you spent around the clock, not just during that half an hour. You can't compensate for the other 23 and a half. So the more of an active person you are and want to be, the better your health is going to be.
That's great. I'm glad you talked about that because, some people hear, oh, you only have to work out twice a week and then think that not walking or that I love your couch compensating is adequate, but it isn't really. So thanks for talking about that. Why don't you tell us about your program so that people can learn about that? And it's the link to sign up for it is right there if you're
so if you haven't been strength training, if the pandemic kind of took you and swept you under the rug, it's time to get back out. So, I'm thrilled to bring this one. We have a membership, and most of our programs are behind the doors. And this one we've brought out, it's called Tone and Define. And it's a perfect start or restart because the repetition range, which is what we do to choose intensity in strength training. The intensity is not about how high is your heart rate. It's about how much weight can you lift to muscular fatigue. And the repetition range is about 20 most of the time, which is not super heavy. And it's not so much that it's going to wear your joints out, because we're also, many of us thinking, my parents had arthritis, and, I may be more vulnerable to that. And we all are vulnerable to that osteoarthritis with wear and tear. So we don't want to go really high either. But we do want to reach muscular fatigue. So every workout in the program, and there are 12, and they're set up so that you do one new one every week. And so imagine, the first time you do it, it's like your first date. So you're going to do a little searching for what weight do I exactly need and where do I reach muscular fatigue. And the second time through, now you'll be a little bit more experienced, a little bit more sure of, oh, you know what, I didn't quite reach fatigue last time and I need to go a little bit heavier on this one. And that is, as much as you'll spend time with that one, and the following week you're on to a new workout. So you have enough to get comfortable and familiar, but not so long with each one that you will do it over and over again and get tired of it. So that's a huge advantage for a lot of our members who like the variety. Each of the workouts is different in structure, based on, again, protocols that are proven to work, not just in research, but at this point, we've been doing it for 3.5 years with this particular program with our audience, tweaking it as we go. And they're each slightly different. So although the exercises we can do with joints, we only have so many joint actions we can take. Those don't change, but we put them in different order, different sequences. So you will feel like I know what I'm doing, but not feel like I know what's coming and I know what she's going to say next, right? So it won't be so predictable, which is good for variety's sake. But I will say something about that. So often there are a lot of very creative moves given now in exercise classes and online, and certainly we've all seen them on YouTube. But when it comes to fitness for women who are flipping 50, it's really back to basics if we're hoping to increase our muscle, work on our bone density, and build our metabolism without getting injured, because that's the tagline, right? None of us wants to get hurt. And so they're very safe. You won't see a single burpee ever from me. And there won't be anything there for variety's sake. Everything has a purpose. There's a very specific reason, and I'm giving it to you so that you know, because I'm a big believer that women in our age group, we will do what we need to do if we know why we need to do it and how it's going to help. That connection is really so important.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming here today. Is there any final words that you want to share with my friends here on Facebook?
No, I think if I can leave you with this is a big one, actually. So for final tips, but if you find it hard to do it for yourself, what I've realized that over these years of working with midlife women, you have so much influence over so many people that I truly think there's no more powerful health influencer in the world than a midlife woman. So it matters for you to take care of you. And if you have a hard time doing that, putting yourself first, think about the people watching you, what your young adult children are watching and learning about how to take care of themselves. And your spouse, your partner, and your in-laws and your parents. I mean, no one has the kind of influence on 3 generations that you do. And so if you can put it that way, it may feel like it's a bigger thing that you do need to do, but it's less about you and it's more about everyone in your life.
Thank you for saying that. And also just keep in mind that gaining strength is really only a 2-time-a-week job, so no matter how busy you are, you can commit a half hour twice a week to building your strength, which will help your bones and your heart and your muscles, and will also help your sex drive, which is of course very, very valuable. So
I think libido boosting must be one of the most popular master classes I've ever done. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being here with me today, Debra. I'm really excited to share your program. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.